You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously we want to wish you a happy Halloween, because obviously it's Halloween. It's the 31st of October in the UK. And we have a very special show for you this evening. But obviously first I am joined by my co-host Carl.
Happy Halloween, Sam. I hope you're having a spooky old time.
Well, you know, got trick-or-treaters keep knocking on the door, but, you know...
Yeah, I've put a sign, don't knock, so they don't normally knock. They don't normally bother me anyway. My neighbours think I'm weird.
So I bet you've really gotten any kids on your estate then?
No, yeah, we have kids, and they're the properties that have other children, and we've got all their like pumpkins outside and skeletons and ghosts and goblins outside, but. They obviously know a couple of years since I've moved in, so I don't get really knocked up. They only really go to the other houses that have kids in there, so I'm pretty free. So. Cool. And I hope all our listeners are having a good Halloween, and they're going to enjoy this show. A very, very special show. Yeah,
and obviously, I suppose, with obviously the guests we have on and what she does, it is kind of probably a Halloween-ish, theme-ish, I don't know.
Well, we've had a couple of technical issues that possibly could be related to Halloween, crossing that veil. But, it's going to be a good show.
So, obviously, we shall announce now who we have on. That is Bloody Mary. Do we call you Bloody Mary, or would you like Mary?
You've got to call me Bloody Mary 3 times if you want it to work. It doesn't matter at this point. Bloody Mary or Mary, but Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Right, that's the 3 times, so we're safe now.
So obviously, of course, if nobody knows who you are, would you like to tell all his listeners what you do?
Sure. Hello. I am Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, Bloody Mary. I am also a paranormal investigator, a psychic medium, an author, and I have my whole own entire haunted museum in a very haunted spot in town, as well as a tour company that we go everywhere and longest running paranormal investigations in New Orleans. Plus. Busy woman. And I'm on a lot of those TV shows that I believe actually make it to the UK, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Lockdown, and all that jazz. So you might have seen me there, too.
Yeah, because you've obviously been on a few Ghost Adventures episodes.
4.
Yeah. You obviously were at the Haunted Museum live event.
Yes, when they were just, not last year's, but the first year's, the grand opening for them. Yeah. And I had just grand opened mine about 2 months before that.
Cool.
So we were linking up.
Good. So one of the things that obviously I've been intrigued by, obviously I am aware of you, and I have seen you on the show and everything like that. The bit that is really interesting, because obviously you're coming over to the UK for as one of the speakers for Sage Paracon.
Yes, I am.
In about a week and a bit.
And looking forward to it.
Yes, it's going to be fun. It's a good thing, and a lot of the guys that come over from the States absolutely love it, and you'll be made so welcome by the Sage tribe.
Well,
but the thing that really intrigues me, obviously, with you've got the museum,
right,
which we're going to come on to in a second, and obviously you're in New Orleans, one of the paranormal hotspots of the States.
Yes,
but it's this whole Voodoo Queen, because obviously in the UK we don't really have much exposure to voodoo in like television, apart from obviously on films, etc. So can you just give a quick explanation on what it means to be a Voodoo Queen?
Well, I think you probably need to know what voodoo is first, probably.
Yeah.
So that's in New Orleans voodoo, which is unique. There's a whole bunch of different types of voodoo. The head title, highest that you can get would be queen. And I had that title passed to me from the last queen in the New Orleans voodoo lineage. And I'm also Mambo Asogwe, which is the highest level you can get in Haitian voodoo, as well as Catholic and twinned with the old religions from your parts and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. So voodoo is an ancient religion that stemmed from the African tribal belief systems that traveled to the New World with the slave trade, and generally landing in the more Latin Catholic areas, of which New Orleans is one. You would have the religions blending because there was a bit more permissiveness with the slaves in those areas. Slavery is always oppression, of course, but there was a little bit more freedoms here. And you have to realize that the Catholics were never really against dancing or music, and voodoo is a danced religion and a musical religion. So the same areas that you get a form of New World voodoo, you also get a form of music. So New Orleans and jazz, and Brazil and theirs, and Cuba and such, because it was those polyrhythmic beat of the voodoo drums that was for the spirits that mixed in with the European instruments and created a sound. So just like there was slightly different beats of the drum and slightly different dialects in word, they also became like slightly different in the way the voodoos developed. So, and plus you have to realize geography. We might be stuck in the South and in the U.S., but we're the gateway to the Caribbean, and we have more comparisons out that way than we do to our southern brother and sister states. Port town, big port town, lots of different people coming in, lots of different ideas, and a strong magic already in the place from the river and what I call swamp magic. So I teach swamp magic, and I do what I call voodoo paranormal, because I mix the old religions and their belief systems with the ancestors with modern paranormal investigation. Okay. So does that help?
Yeah,
it's kind of like a shamanic religion that came, that's very earth reverent. It's very nature based. It's also very ancestral based, and you would have your deity forms as well.
Because obviously the exposure that we have with voodoo over here is obviously
live and let die.
Yeah, live and let die. And obviously the other programs that you get over here that cover the voodoo, and it's a bit like some other elements in the paranormal that it sort of can get portrayed in a bad way, isn't that right?
Of course, yes.
And it's all to do with
all religions,
that. So obviously we're a bit similar to witches in the UK and pagans and stuff like that. They can have this persona of the negative part of it, when actually majority and most of the time it's obviously nothing to do with the negative side of it. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, it's really not what you're talking about. Really has nothing to do with the religions.
Right.
What you're talking about is human nature.
Yeah.
So there are people in every single religion in the world that are out to harm others and personal gain, and there's others that want to help. So whatever they're working through, whether it's voodoo or witchcraft or Catholicism or Judaism, there's good and bad priests in everything. So it really is human nature. But Hollywood, who wants to make it darker and make it more interesting, just like everybody wants to talk about, the paranormal, the fear part, like Paranormal Activity, where you're going to be pulled down the stairs by your hair. That rarely happens. Sometimes on a Tuesday, but in general, it rarely happens.
Yeah, because obviously we have with the paranormal on TV and the films and stuff like that. It's always demon this, demon that. When
right.
there are cases out there, and obviously you go through those, and there are some prominent cases. But majority of the time, people in their careers of the paranormal will probably never experience a demon activity. So I guess
it depends on how heavily involved in it. But again, just like everything, you're going to run into good people, you're going to run into bad people, you're going to run into people that want to rip you off. It's just The percentages that are in human nature are in all religions. But then Hollywood wants to twist it, like you say.
Absolutely.
Religions want to twist it because they don't want you to stray, or they're afraid if you go do this that you won't be a good person. So you've got the religion saying, oh, it's evil to deal with the spirit world. And that's been going on for a very, very long time, right?
Oh, yeah. Thousands of years.
Yeah. So, that's because you better be on our side. Because if you're not on our side, you're going to be going down the wrong road. So, let's put down those people. Let's demonize them. And that's just history. The victor wants to demonize those that were there before to maintain to be the victor. Yeah. But I hate the politic part of religion. I absolutely hate it. And I mean, there's politics in paranormal too. I don't like that either. But
I must. When you've got religion, you're always gonna. It's like two subjects that you shouldn't talk about, and that's religion and politics.
But then within paranormal, you've got some people who are still very afraid of contacting the spirits in tried and true ways throughout the ages, and they think it's safe only because they're hiding behind their gadgets. You're still contacting the spirits, however you want to call it, however you want to hide behind, because I think they think that if they're using the gadgets, they're not dabbling in the spirit world, but of course you are.
If you contacted a spirit, whether it's via a ritual or via whatever, or through SB7 spirit box or anything, or
a dream,
you're still contacting the other side, and you still got to be very, very careful when you
respectful. Respectful.
Yeah, that is the biggest key that I, in my 20 odd years of doing the paranormal, my journey is the respect factor, because I think sometimes that can go out the window because of the Hollywood factor.
Yes.
And people think that is the right way of doing things.
Like provoking, which I'm against.
Yeah, I describe it as if you walk into, say, a bar and you go up to somebody, get into their face and shouting at them, you're not going to get a good response back. Yeah,
that's how I describe it as well.
Yeah.
Except, they can't say the person's evil because they told you to F off, I say I knock softly at the door while people are having dinner. It might take a long time, but eventually they're going to hear me, and they might trust me and let me in and talk to me. Hell, they might want me to sit down and have dinner with them. But if I barge in the front door and go punch them in the face while they're eating, push them out of their chair, steal their plate, I'm going to have a reaction that's a little more. So I can't say, see how evil he is? It's me.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
And then I joke around and say I don't believe in one-night stands, because if you just go in a place real quick, you want to make as much noise as you can to get as quick reaction as you can, which is a lot of TV shows do. But if you're going to a place night after night, day after day, you have years of interactions with the same spirits in the same places. You see their evolution. You see how they change. You see the human factor still existing, that there's moods and there's laziness and there's activity and there's sensual parts. They change just like we change. We all evolve.
Absolutely. So just quickly going on to Sage Paracon.
Yes,
obviously, because we are the official radio show for Sage Paracon, and we're going through and interviewing all the amazing speakers, you being one of them. Just for the people that are listening, because I know there's plenty of listeners in there and they're all interacting in the chat room, just give them an idea of what they're going to expect through your talk or your lecture. Not obviously, don't go into too much detail to spoil it, but just give them an overview.
Okay, you want surprises and you want information all balanced. Okay. Well, most everything I do is kind of sort of within a ritual format. I'll open gates, I'll close gates. Even the act of storytelling and lecturing or narration is about seed sounds and calling spirits. So, I will be talking about voodoo and how I mix voodoo with paranormal and the different ways that things that have happened throughout the years. I could also give some insight onto some of the things that have been revealed through the case that I'm working with at my haunted museum. Now, we have 13 ghosts, some of them travel with me, so hopefully the airlines won't charge extra. But basically, 13 ghosts, but there's 2 that are very, very newsworthy case. Okay. And I will be able to explain some of that and get feedback from people, as well as tell them a little bit about Gree and voodoo dolls, all at the same time.
Yeah, that's something that I'm very, very interested in picking up when I see your talk, and that's because I know you're going to be. I think MJ's already announced that you're going to be doing a workshop on how to create your own voodoo doll.
Well, I can show you how. I don't know if we're doing a full workshop because I can't bring materials across the border. Unfortunately, they will abscond with all my Spanish moss. But I will show you how. I'll bring enough to do one, and I have some that I'm going to sell that I'll bless and name and task for you and give you the lowdown on kind of how that works and how spirits are involved with some of these things. Maybe a little hint on how to animate some of these things, because you carry spirits in pouches and in dolls and in bottles, and it's not like we're going and like grabbing a ghost. It's not like that, though. They're welcome to latch on if they want, but that's not what it's about. But yes, I'll go into the voodoo as well as certain maybe potions and things that we do to call spirits and calm spirits. And even though it's your namesake, I have a whole thing again. Let's get beyond sage. Yeah. And I'm not talking about sage paracone. I'm talking about the sage that you burn. Yeah. That is, I don't know if that's why you named it sage paracone.
No, I'm talking to MJ because I've known MJ for quite a while, and she just liked sage.
Well, there's a word of sage being a wise one a long time ago too. He is the sage, There's that kind of sage, and then there's the kind you burn, and the kind same as the kind you eat.
I just think it was a name that she thought of, and she liked. Obviously, she liked. I think I'm right that she likes to cook with sage, and I think it just came as that. It wasn't actually
natural. Natural progression.
Natural progression to call it sage paranormal, and obviously sage paracon. But I know that the sage tribe that are out there that will be there over the weekend.
I'm excited. I have some bloodline connection ghosts that might have had something to do with the areas that we are. So it's always fascinating to travel to bump into past life and or, past bloodline spirits. So we'll see what pops up.
Yeah, you're gonna love the hotel where the convention is.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, and I could also show you guys how to make little ancestral altars, areas to strengthen ancestors, a different way than maybe most paranormal investigators do it. I could also take some of the fear out of running into voodoo icons and such like that, and what to do about them. And there's all kind of things we could go to, and I let the people guide me. If they have a question, if everybody has a similar question, I can turn on a dime, easily, and continue to go on different avenues of interest to the people that are there.
Yeah, and I know they're going to enjoy it because I know the Sage tribe and I know what they're like. And when it comes to particularly like voodoo, paganism, and everything like that, the older sciences, as I call it, and the older ways of doing stuff. They're so into that because it's the questions that they've asked previous to other speakers over the years. So I think you're going to have a full house when you do your thing.
I had one person. I don't know if everybody sees the answers online. I had one person ask me about costumes. Mm-hmm. Because they're having the voodoo ball. Like, what else could they do? Everybody knows the dog guy with the top hat and the cigar. Yeah. But there are so many, so many different loas or spirits or voodoos in voodoo, that you could come as. So I gave a bunch of them ideas. I don't know if everybody saw it. I mean, there's like La Serene, the mermaid, and there's Ogun, who is he's like the soldier and the diplomat, and I mean, there's so many different ones. Agwe, who's like the Poseidon. And, of course, the Barons with their top hat and his wife, Bridget.
Yeah, because I know that talking to quite a few people, there's so many people doing different things, and
Good.
And all out from, because obviously we the people that attend are literally from all over the world. There'll be people from America coming, not just the speakers, but obviously they'll be coming from America. They're coming from Europe. They're literally coming from all over. And I know there's groups that have been set up on social media asking about ideas for the costumes and stuff like that. So any advice that you've got for the listeners now, if you want to just quickly run through some ideas that people that are struggling, that they don't want to go as the typical top hat and the cigar.
Right. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The Barons would love that. The colors of the dead are black and purple with occasional pop of white. So Mama Bridget is like the bride, mother of the bones, and father of the bones. So that's the top hat tails coats. There's a spider version of Gede, which is kind of interesting too. I don't exactly know how to tell you to make the costume, but think of the spider, Loa Zaranier. I like him. So there's a spider of the dead. There's a variety of so many different barons, but the main is he and his wife, the Baron and the Baroness. So couples can do that, of course. In La Serene, the mermaid is married to. You could have a whole bunch. The Poseidon of the sea. So you've got like La Serene, the mermaid, and her husband there, and then there's La Baleine, the whale. Agasu, who is the royal leopard ancestor. So that one, he's kind of cool. I like him. I have a big altar dedicated to him for this season. So we've got Agasu, who was like the first ancestor. And then there's Zuli, the goddess of love, and she's all pink and pretty and hearts and girly girl. But then she's got like a harsher sister, a little bit of scar on her face, a single mother type, or Zuli Dantour. So a lot of women might want to go in that angle. Then you've got Ogu. He is the blacksmith Loa, who's also that diplomat or that soldier I was talking about earlier, and he likes the machete. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go, but I would suggest reading up on the Loas or whatever and seeing which one calls to you, because once they do, you might even get a dream, and he might tell you what to wear or what not to wear.
Absolutely.
And there's veves. The veves are the symbol signatures for the spirits. You might want to draw that on your person or on your clothing to become that, or even on your face if you're so inclined. And then there's characters like Marie Laveau, people in history that were very well-known voodoo queens. There's that way as well.
Yeah, because I know that talking to people, I know I've seen some of the groups that people with. I think there's going to be some amazing outfits. And when I was looking at what I was going to wear, I was instantly drawn, as you said a moment ago. I was interested because it's colours with me, and it was the purple and the white for me. Okay.
Yeah, white is still considered a mourning color. Purple and black are the more commonly seen, but the white is still absolutely perfect. Yeah. So if you want to go that way, if you want to go as a couple with Agwe and La Serene, the mermaid, and her husband there, that's also a different way that you can do it.
Cool.
So mermaids are always cool costumes.
Yeah.
And they're spirits. I mean, I don't know what you believe about spirits if you put them in the same category, but we have like a mermaid of the river here who's like a mother goddess. And even though it's a supernatural race as opposed to the spirit of a dead person, I will kind of lump that all in these cryptids and such. So, if you're liking the cryptids and if you're liking the loup-garou, the werewolf, he has a place in voodoo as well, the loup-garou. So you could go that way.
Cool.
I love the loup-garou.
Well, that's really that. I think that'll help a lot of people, particularly anybody that's listening has been stumped what they've been thinking about, what they're going to.
And of course, there's zombies. You know.
Yeah.
Can't forget to say that.
I can guarantee there'll be a couple of zombies. I'm
and
pretty
there's
sure
a couple of dead people wandering around. You know.
I'm pretty sure there'll be zombies and dead people. But people have basically just rehashed their costumes from the previous years and spiced it up a little bit. So I'm pretty sure there'll be some zombies and dead people wandering around.
Yeah, well, you know, it's always good to decorate with a few. The La Morte would be the correct words for that. La Morte. So La Morte are recognized as one's own family and ancestors. And so, you know, to have an entourage behind you of dead people would be the way that it's looked at and believed in voodoo.
That's interesting.
Well, you have your ancestors that came before. And to throw a whole loop in the conversation for you, it's very important to acknowledge the ancestors not yet born.
Right.
Because their spirits are there too.
And how would you go about doing that?
I don't know. Dead babies.
Okay.
Not unborn babies. Excuse me, not dead babies. Unborn.
Okay. Yeah.
So the ones not yet born that are still ahead are still already kind of almost predetermined. So they are known to be there and pull you forward a little bit. So you could have a few ahead as well as a few behind you.
Okay. That's interesting. That is very interesting.
I've had several cases of hauntings that turned out to be the unborn, the woman in the house is not knowing that they were pregnant and it being their own children, pre-haunting them.
Wow. That's the first time in 20 years of doing this that I've actually heard of pre-born hauntings.
Oh, I work tons with babies and unborns and ones that, you know, were almost born, let's say, to a family or a person that are still with that person. I work, I guess, with a lot with, you know, women and healing women because I do a lot of psychic healing as well. And my current goal, I suppose, is to work with women and children, dead or alive, not yet born. So especially some people that may have been abused a little bit. So yeah, you got to release those spirits, embrace them as your family, whether they made it to the flesh or not. The ones that are coming. It also helps with fertility for people that are stuck. They can't seem to get there. I have them work with the spirit as opposed to just with drugs that, you know, fertility drugs. So yeah, that all plays into it.
Wow. It sounds like with your assistant, your advice now, I think that there's going to be quite a few people that are going to have new thoughts and new ideas on what they're going to be coming to the Voodoo Bash, the party in the bayou, I think it's billed as. And following on from, obviously the bayou and obviously the swamp area, you mentioned when you first were talking you were talking about swamp magic.
Yes. In fact, there's a very interesting English witch in this country who I did a swamp magic seminar for all of his witches in LA, I believe. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, he came to me and he said, you know, until you had this talk, I had totally forgotten about my roots in the swamp marsh. No, they called it salt marsh where you're from, right?
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
And he said, you know, I have to embrace that again. I forgot that my family worked a lot in the swamps, you know, back in history. Mm-hmm. So to bring that back into my work was very important. Many areas, if not most in the world at one point had been swamps. New Orleans, in some form or another, New Orleans was all swamp and still mainly right now. So that's that primordial energy. It is raw that you can create from. So to draw up through the marshy areas, those crossroads betwixt and between places that where land meets sea and the creatures that are there. Again, you might put them in the form of cryptids, but you might put them in the whole realm of the fairy or the elementals. Mm-hmm. Those are important spirits to kind of get to know too.
Yeah, because I know because of obviously the way MJ's put together the speakers for the convention. I know there's going to be people there who are going to be covering the elementals. They're going to be covering from particularly from the guys that are coming from the UK.
Cool.
Some of those speakers, they're going to be looking at that part of it. So it's more of this year it's more of a like a how do I put it? It seems to be more on the spiritual side of it. So obviously you've got the voodoo side from yourself and all the wisdom. And
I saw there was a shaman and there was a witch and there was a few. Yeah.
Pagan. We got pagan. We got one of the pagans coming who's going to be looking at that. And obviously we've got all the different, and obviously involved in all of this. We've obviously got Calvin Van Crush as well, who's bringing his occult stuff with him.
I have tons of that too, but I didn't know if I wanted to bring it cross customs. I was a little worried about that.
What sort of? Because obviously, when I've watched you on the shows, there was one particular like ritual you were doing with Zach and Aaron, where you basically involved like whiskey with it as well, wasn't it?
Rum.
Yeah. Rum.
Always. Everything I do, every ghost hunt, every lecture, everything. And it's not for me. It's for the spirits. Yes, spirits love spirits. That's my motto.
Okay, that's quite a refreshing looking at, because obviously we're over here, basically, and if anybody mentions that type of spirit, so you can't do that. You can't.
No, it's not for you.
No. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah, you shouldn't, but they can. It's like a social thing, you know. Like I give you the cigar, I give you the drink. It's because we're socializing. These are things they liked in life. The smell, the idea, the social aspect brings it to a person-to-person level instead of an experiment.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like people to be drunk when we do this stuff. No. They bumble around in the dark, as bad as it is. It's not, you know, but it's more of a toast. You know, It's not somewhat pot, you know, and I don't go that far. But, I mean, I've had spirits request a lot more than just a cocktail.
Yeah, I can imagine, because obviously in over that side, and when they were living, they were obviously people indulged in various different things. Right. And that's obviously what they're craving when they've passed over. So
I have, I always ask, what can I bring? What can I do? How can I help? You know, and I had just said that and walked away one night. I was in a graveyard. It was a small 2-person group, and the man was right next to my side, and the woman was back 10 steps, taking 5 steps, taking pictures, right? And we're walking away from the tree of where I had said this and left an offering. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, God. And the guy was like, holy, whoa. And we're like coughing and choking and laughing at the same time. And she's just a couple of steps behind and catches up. She's like, what? And we both turn to her and say, it's like, you can't smell that. And we're like, and she's like, what? Feeling really left out. And I was like, oh my God. It was like 20 people were locked in a small smoking room in a building, and they opened it up and they were smoking pot for like a week. It was so much pot. It was contact high, astral, paranormal smell. It was in a huge area where no one else was, but only 2 of us could smell it. And I said, look, guys, I'll bring you a lot of things. I bring you cigars and cigarettes and food and liquor. Hell, if I'm going to cop pot for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll try. They'll try for it,
Yeah, well, like we said, if they indulged in that when they were living, they're going to want to indulge in that when they're on the other side.
If the room will fill with a scent of a perfume, which happens, of course, on investigations, and I can identify it as a rose or a jasmine, I will go buy rose or jasmine perfume to bring it back to the place in the physical plane so that they get what they liked. It matches. You have to make it solid and grounded into this side for those communications, and they happen in a variety of ways: through smell, through sound, through taste, through touch.
I must admit, it's quite. I've experienced obviously the smells, like the sweet smell of like perfume. I've smelled cigars is another one, and cigarette smoke and stuff.
And a couple of times it's been the pot. So I was like, okay, I get it, and there was no way anyone else was there, to make that smell.
Yeah. No,
and it's more believable when not everyone gets it, because not everyone gets things at the same time.
No, exactly. I think there was one investigation we were on, and similar to what you were saying, the group was sort of spread out a little bit, and the ones at the front suddenly smelled. I think it was like a very, very sweet perfume, and as they kept on walking, and everybody that got to that same spot suddenly went perfume. And then the people at the back came through, and every single person smelt the same smell in exactly the same spot.
See, that's what usually does never happen with me.
Oh, okay.
Not I'm at the same table, and only 3 or 4 of us out of the 10 will smell it. Right. Same spot, same thing. It's about sender and receiver's ability. Not everyone is supposed to get the message. Not everyone is, I don't know. Not everyone is supposed to. Sometimes it's just a message for one person, and you're in a group of 3, and they're the only one that's going to get it in the direct way. Yeah. You might get some lingering after effects, but you're not going to get it. Everybody has a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
and
you find that because you are in tuned and you're like a beacon to these guys, that if you're walking through, say like you said, you're walking through a graveyard, they'll basically start following you because they want to interact with you more, and they won't stay where they were. Does that
sometimes? Yeah. But sometimes they're sick of me, and they might want to follow one of the people that I'm with. So if I'm coming with a group of 2 or a group of 20, and I could come in consecutively, just leave a place in 20 minutes and come back with something else in 20 minutes, and there was nothing going on before, but because of one person or whatever their differences are in that group, all of a sudden there's more activity. So it could be for me, but I say it's because, one person looks like someone they knew in life.
Yeah.
Maybe they're bloodline connected, because I have been taught and teach now that the spirits don't see you like we look in the mirror. They see you for your entire bloodline that you're carrying. They can see your mistakes, your problems. They can see what you do as a career, what your ailments are. They see you in a much different way than we see each other. So they could also see you for your past lives. And so there's a reason, it could be very deep and sincere, and it could be very silly, because I had a couple of them that just really liked tattoos. And whenever I had somebody with a full sleeve of tattoos, that person was to be groped and grabbed by invisible hands. It could be very like that, or low-cut shirts. And whatever, it could be little reasons or really big, significant reasons.
I completely and utterly understand where that comes from. I'm pretty sure that the people out there listening will understand that and have their own personal experiences with exactly that. I just want to go back to the thing, which is also very, very fascinating with me, because I was literally, obviously, myself and Sam, we were at Zach's Haunted Museum a week ago. We only got back from Vegas like last week, so we went a couple of times to Zach's Haunted Museum. Do you want to tell the listeners about your amazing museum as well?
Well, it's polar opposite of Zach's. Zach just has so much stuff.
Yeah.
It was almost too much stuff to really isolate what was going on. It was like so much. And it's about all the different things that he's collected from a bunch of different people and places. Mine is more, I guess, about the spirits themselves. Though I have haunted artifacts, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 voodoo altars in there. I have ghost photo gallery. I have a Victorian seance parlor where we do actual seances weekly to groups, but also privately. And I have old school and new school paranormal investigation things in there. So like I have the very first 3 Frank's boxes ever made that are on display. That comes from the Chris Moon collection. Then I have, of course, modern paranormal stuff that we use on our night. We do ghost hunts nightly. But in the seance room, I have a horn, a spiritualist horn that was used for close to 100 years in seances. I have a haunted Ouija board and a haunted mirror from the Octagon houses, where many famous politicians had done seances for over 100 years, including, I think, Houdini, who had went to a couple of them, and Lincoln and things. So that mirror brings in a lot. So I've used the voodoo like herbs, so I might burn to call in spirits. I'll open the gates, play the drums. So all that's there. The voodoo elements are there. The voodoo history is there. Feeding the altars is there. We open the gates and show you how to do it. And then the equipment that we use both historically and presently. Plus, I have like pictures of all the people from the spiritualist movement on the wall, as well as I had America's first ghost photo gallery and little haunted museum in 1999.
Wow.
It closed at Katrina. Then I was a pop-up museum that I traveled to, different parties or paranormal things with until 3 years ago when I landed at this location, which is haunted in itself.
Mm-hmm.
However, total, I've been doing this for 25 years. And in the middle, I also had things in my own haunted home, which was on one of the Ghost Adventures shows too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
So a lot of the stuff that was in my home is now in the museum.
Okay.
My altars are still here. So I've got a couple of skulls. And you know what I've really got that's great is I've got personal artifacts that belong to Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau.
Wow.
And an entire voodoo doctor's kit from the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. These are very active and alive haunted possessions, if you will. So if I would use a ritual dagger that Marie Laveau used, I get extra power by tapping into every ritual that she did.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the ceremonial knife, I've got her personal gun, and I've got her Evil Away cross, which I was thinking about bringing with me, maybe to Paracon, so I'd have one item like that.
Mm.
And I have her bezoars that she used, that I used to pull healing through. So yes, I have a lot of haunted ingredients and displays that are there, but they're all pertaining to voodoo, hoodoo, New Orleans, the spirits, a brick from the house that was torn down after Katrina, a nail from the haunted attic of Madame LaLaurie that caused a possession for 4 different people that I had to do different exorcisms through. I've got that kind of stuff too.
Cool. I'm looking forward to visiting when we hit New Orleans.
Mine is a tiny, tiny place. That's also why it's the polar opposite of Zach's. Mine is a small place. It's got a gorgeous Creole courtyard with outbuildings, a 200-year-old building. And so it came with ghosts. Then I have the haunted artifacts. And again, going back to that whole children thing, I take care of a lot of spirit children and babies. I have a bunch of things from an orphanage that lets the children come back through. I designed the place as a spirit sanctuary, wanting them to have a place to tell their stories and to play if they want to, not just the children, but the adults as well. So inviting all of the spirits from town by having a piece of all of the most known historic haunted houses in the building is what I have been doing for the past 3 years there, as well as a specific case that is attached to the building that I've been working with their spirits, which is, interesting, fascinating, sad, and controversial, all rolled into one. Well, and I'll talk about that when I get there.
Cool. And I'll look forward to visiting when myself and MJ and a few of the Sage Tribe come out to New Orleans in February.
But I have something for you now and for all the Sage Paracon people or anybody listening out there.
Yeah.
I have been working my butt off very hard, not knowing it was going to be this this big of a deal. I have a haunted museum app that will be launched in a few days. Okay. Right, it's supposed to be done by Halloween, but it might be a few more days before I get it out there. So sometime today, you can come without having to come to New Orleans. It's a combination storytelling, podcast, vlog, and app, which brings you to all the different rooms and tells you a little about it. It's set with music and kind of takes you on a virtual journey.
That's yeah. If you can send us over any links you've got once you've got it there, we'll post it in the various different social media.
That sounds great. Yeah, it'll be as soon as me and Apple and me and Google get the nitty gritty down with we just got a little technical thing we're doing. Then it's out there, and I'll get it right over.
Perfect. Yeah. No. We'll
and it'll be on my website too.
Yeah, we'll post all the links in the chat room and on the social media sites. Obviously, we've got the chat room at the moment, so people are interacting in the chat room. So we'll post it in there when we get a chance. So yeah, just go over, have a look. And that app sounds really, really interesting because obviously for people that aren't able to get over to New Orleans, they can experience, as you say, the different...
And then if they when they do, you know, they can take the money they pay for the app and take it off the tour, so you won't lose anything. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't think everybody's going to sit there and read everything that I wrote. It ended up becoming an entire other book, but kind of interactive, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you can do it on your own, and it's going to link you back to a lot of things, further research things. It's been a project. It's been an interesting project.
Oh, I'm sure that the Sage Tribe will love that. We'll post it on the Sage pages as well. So we'll get that interacting for you. So I'm sure there'll be people out there that will be very, very keen on getting hold of that. So yeah, that's really, really interesting, because that's something that is good for people that potentially have got a phobia of not being able to fly and stuff like that. They can actually
that's
see
true.
these
There's a lot of that.
place, experience it, as you say, the storytelling, the music, and everything like that. So that's really, really good.
And the photos, the paranormal photos, and the regular photos, and video evidence that's up at the top with it, you know, on top of the stories. And then I'm going to try to add a monthly, like, updated little mini podcast of the, you know, experience of the month, sort of thing, you know.
We'll definitely advertise that on the radio network pages, and obviously I'm sure that we can get it all out onto the Sage pages as well, and get the word out. And I'm pretty sure that you'll have people that are listening tonight and that are attending Sage Paragon that will be definitely interested in that. We've got about 10 minutes left to go of the show. It seems to fly by when we always have very interesting guests. So just want to cover a few other little bits.
Sure.
You obviously say you do tours.
Yes, 25-year-long veteran tour company, and I invented the haunted pub crawl, and I have done evening cemetery tours here for 25 years.